And good afternoon. Hey, Jagjeet, it's great to see you.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for having me on your show.
And how does it feel? We're down at Sepang, the Sepang International Circuit for the GT World Challenge Asia. How does it feel to be back at the racetrack?
To me, it's just another race weekend. I mean, I've been coming here since the circuit opened, really. Yeah, but good to see new drivers, young drivers especially, making a name for themselves. So it's always good to see something new.
Because I mean, you've been involved in Malaysian motorsport for quite a while, right?
Yes, I have my whole life, really. I mean, I'm 51 this year, so that's a long time.
And what have you been involved? Have you been a driver, a racer yourself, or have you been more on the management mechanic side of things?
I've practically done it all. Okay, so when I was young, the reason I got into motorsport and why I say my whole life is because my father used to race. So at a very young age, I was taught to work on race cars and what a racing team is all about. I was given a task and stuff like that. So the first 20 years of my life was basically centered around racing and racing teams, and then I got into rallying as a driver, and the next 20 years of my life was spent in rallying. And then I retired quite early, quite sort of, because I wanted to organize events. So it was like there was, to me, I saw a need for more user-friendly events, as in like grassroots racing or grassroots rallying or whatever, grassroots events, motorsport events. So I hung up the steering wheel to start organizing events. I've been doing it happily ever since, and currently I manage and I run a team that competes in gymkhana overseas. So there's the gymkhana Asia Pacific Championship, and there's also one coming up, which is the World Motorsports Games by FIA. They have a Gymkhana category newly introduced. So my focus now is Gymkhana. I'm still around. I mean, I still support racing. Either I'm a steward for the Motorsports Association of Malaysia, or like today, I'm here to support the team. So I'm here as a member of the media, taking photos, talking to people, and finding out what's going on, and just helping them spread whatever news and views and stuff like that on my Facebook page. So
Okay, and whereabouts is the venue for the Gymkhanas here in Malaysia? Because is it still down at the where was the big car park place?
Shah Alam, that's where it started basically. Drifting in Gymkhana started at the Shah Alam Stadium car park.
Okay, but was it the what was the other place? Mayaps? Maya?
Yes, but that came along later. Maps, yes,
Okay.
that came along later. But Shah Alam is it's where everything started when drifting and Gymkhana came along back in 99, 2000.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. But now it's all over the country, so that's a good thing.
Oh, right. So it's not just at Sepang or Shah Alam now. You're taking it to different areas of Malaysia.
Yes. So there've always been events, different areas of Malaysia, including East Malaysia, Sabah, and Sarawak. But they've always been like events which very lonely. I would call them lonely because nobody knew each other. The organizers did not know each other. The drivers definitely did not know each other. So I kind of got everybody together, and like East Malaysians have been coming to West Malaysia to compete, and likewise West Malaysians going to East Malaysia, and that makes it easier for me to choose a driver when I take them overseas, because when we go overseas, it's country versus country. So obviously, I need the best drivers from Malaysia, and I need to be at those events to see who's good enough. Then I kind of scout them, and I call selected drivers over to a selection event, and I pick the best of the best.
Okay. And how long is the Malaysian Championship? Are you
They
running it as a championship? Or?
That's the thing. Okay, good question. We've never had an official Malaysian Gymkhana Championship. We have like something like 15 events a year, which is not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad either. So planning with the MAM to actually organize a proper championship, hopefully starting next year.
Okay, right. And then somehow that's connected to the international or the world gymkhana
Yes,
championships.
that's true.
Oh wow.
So different names in different countries, but it's basically the same thing. So like in the UK, I think they call it auto test, and some countries they call gymkhana, autokana, but they're basically the same thing. So point A to point B, you have cones. So they're not run in on racetracks, or at least they don't need to be. Although in Japan they do. So it's just a matter of knowing how to make handbrake turns. There's some drifting involved, figure eight turns, 180, 360s, donuts. You would need skills that's needed in rallying, drifting, and also racing because you need to get your lines right.
Right. Okay. So we can soon call you Jagjeet Singh, the king of Malaysian gymkhana.
Well, not because as a driver, I'm not. I mean, I've retired as a driver, but I am trying to bring people up. So basically, I'm giving, I'm a creator of opportunities
Right.
in this sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, great. And I've noticed, and just talking, if you could talk a little bit lower, but I've been noticing recently in the past several months that you're getting involved with electric cars. You're doing something with electric.
Yeah. Okay. So all that started when I back in what 2010, 2011, I was very interested in biofuels. So we had a team. Um, we ran biodiesel rally cars. One biodiesel rally car and another was bioethanol, so biofuels. But back then in Malaysia, it wasn't a big thing, so nobody really paid attention to what I was doing. But I did it anyway. You know, it's a good avenue to learn. Then in 2019, I was approached by a government agency asking me if I would be interested in a project that they were coming up with, which involves hydrogen. So obviously, I jumped at the chance, and it wasn't just hydrogen as fuel, but it was hydrogen electric.
Mm.
So to me, it's a no-brainer. So obviously I said yes, and they got me on the project, and we spent the whole of 2019 setting up and equipment and testing and whatnot. So all this actually relates to road cars, road going cars, nothing to do with motorsport.
Right.
But me being a motorsport person, I told them, I'm sorry, I have to link this to motorsport. Are you okay with that? And they said, yeah, why not? So they asked me how, and I gave them the obvious answer. Motorsport is R&D.
Mhm.
So if you fit the equipment, I mean, hydrogen fuel cells, electric components, electric kits, and stuff like that. If you fit it into a road car, we
Mm.
can't do road testing without. We can't do road testing safely.
Mm.
We need approvals from different agencies, road transport department, the police, and all that. But if we fit all these components into a motorsport vehicle, we can just take the motorsport vehicle out to a track, and we can do whatever testing that's necessary. I mean, it's still a motorsport vehicle. So what I did was I used my own car, which was a Super 7 kit car, removed the engine, added in, but replaced the engine with a electric kit, right? And added on hydrogen components to it. And we did our testing. So, well, they're happy with my suggestion of
Mhm.
using Motorsport. And they've actually allowed me to continue with that.
Right.
So it started off as using Motorsport as an R&D, but now I'm actually going to use these vehicles that we have in motorsport itself, starting with Gymkhana.
Right.
And the beauty about Gymkhana is at the highest level, at the FIA World Motorsport Games, the vehicles that are going to be used or supplied in that event are electric cars. So
Ah,
it's just nice because top level electric cars, and what I'm doing here now in Malaysia, entry level electric cars.
right.
So you see the connection. So it's a good
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, it worked out in my favor actually.
Are you at the forefront in Malaysia of doing this? Is there anyone else
I am
doing
the
this?
only one. Yes, I was the only one dabbling into biofuels
Mm.
10 years ago. Well, some were kind of impressed or they understood what I did.
Yeah.
Most of them just laughed at me. It's like, why are you doing this? It's like, just what are you getting out of it?
Right.
So to me, it's I learn. I never know. We never know when education comes in helpful. So
Mm,
and you never know when you may need skills like this. And sure enough, now, because of what I did 10 years ago, it's kind of relevant. So I know what's going on. I know where the world is heading with regards to biofuels or greener fuels, if you will, right?
mm.
Low carbon emissions. So I'm happy to say I started early. I started when nobody else started, and now because I'm experienced, people are coming to me and asking me to join the projects and stuff like that, or have projects with them. So yeah.
And how are you getting any support locally from any government agencies or
Yeah,
anything?
so the government agency that I'm working at, uh, they fund me. They
Okay.
fund me. It's a lot of work. I mean, we don't just spend money doing nothing. So there is an end goal. But like I said
Well,
earlier,
it is
so
motorsport. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
money
So
to
so
do
like I
nothing.
said, so motorsport was never part of the picture.
Right.
If that worked with somebody else, motorsport would not be in there. But
Mm.
motorsport is a big part of my life. So anything I do, I try to include motorsport. So that's why you see me dabbling into electric cars, but also motorsport. So I'm like bringing electrification of vehicles into motorsport, cars and bikes.
And how long do you think it's going to take, or for this to catch on, or what is the ultimate goal in doing this? Do you want to have a series, or do you want to develop the technology to put into any kind of racing car?
Okay, to answer that question, we are actually ready to go, but the problem is cost. Okay,
Okay.
so looking at Europe, you have the latest would be ETCR, touring cars, electric.
Right.
You've got uh, Rallycross that's electric. Obviously, you've got Extreme E, you've got Formula E. Even Le Mans is going well, not so much electric, but in 2024 they will have a category specifically for hydrogen-powered vehicles. It's called the H24. They have a couple of cars ready and testing. So what's happening elsewhere in the world, mainly Europe, we have already started to dabble in right here home in Malaysia, right, but on a much smaller scale. So instead of being left behind, so we know this is the future elsewhere in the world, and we are doing something similar but on a much smaller scale.
Mm.
But then again, it doesn't matter, because even if it's a smaller scale, because we kind of train ourselves, and I learn and then I teach.
Right.
See, so well, I'm a bit too old to join other teams now, but younger people that I train may join some teams somewhere else in the world. They in 2024, you never know. We might have a Malaysian engineer who's well versed with hydrogen systems, hydrogen fuel, hydrogen electric, in one of the Le Mans teams, right?
Right.
So yeah, there's no harm thinking that way along those lines. So
Well, true. Yeah. I mean, it's really establishing through your developments.
correct.
It's really laying the foundations of developing the personal talents,
Correct.
local Malaysian
Well, I
talents.
have this motto, so we shouldn't be late to the party.
Mm,
That's it. We don't wait for things to happen and then we move.
right.
So, uh, well, I'm alert. I know what's going on with regard to EVs and hydrogen and the future of motorsport. I know what's going on. I'm also linked to the FIA, so every time they plan something, even if it's not announced yet, every time they plan something, I kind of know, and
Right.
then I see if I can do it here in Malaysia on a smaller scale, obviously. But then again, well, example. So FIA has started to promote hydrogen. So for now, for the ETCR and stuff like that, they're using hydrogen. They're using hydrogen to charge the batteries in the car. So they have hydrogen fuel cells.
Okay.
Okay, so I know that. I know how the system works. Not everybody does, but I know how the system works.
Mm,
So I have a smaller system that's installed in my car. I actually have an onboard hydrogen generator that charges the battery in my car.
okay.
Okay, see,
Oh,
so
your road car.
not the road car, I mean
Oh, your
motorsport car,
right.
right?
Right.
So road cars not yet, because once again we've got R&D. Our motorsport car was used for R&D,
Yeah.
and we haven't actually gone to road cars yet. Road cars possibly in what 2-3 years,
Right.
but we're ready to go now in terms of motorsport. So if I speak to somebody who's involved with hydrogen projects overseas, right, And instead of not knowing anything, I could tell them, hey, look, in Malaysia, we're doing this. We may have something, or we may have thought of something, a solution probably, that they may not have.
Right.
So that's how we, well, it's a conversation starter, if you will, because that's where everybody's heading. We can't deny that. That's where everybody's heading. So we might as well head in the same direction as they are.
True, true. And is there anything that you're developing or have in your pocket that no one else is doing that will give you that extra added advantage?
We do. We as in Malaysia, because it's a government project. I can't mention it here, but we are working on something that might be of interest elsewhere in the world. Yes, definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
And when you're talking about costs being a small obstacle at the moment,
Well, a big obstacle actually.
yeah, what exactly is that? Is that you need funds to develop the technology or to mass produce it, or what do you need the funding for exactly?
Okay, so coming back to the basic stuff, we leave hydrogen aside. So that's like uh, quite far off in the future. Once again, based on production and stuff like that. But electric vehicles. Okay, so you should be able to take whatever car that you have, your current motorsport car, remove the engine, install an electric kit, and race it. So there are kits out there that you can buy.
Right.
But the thing is, a decent kit would cost you, well, in ringgit, 120,000 ringgit.
Wow.
So you could buy possibly two used race cars for that money,
Yeah.
right? So how do you convince somebody? How do you tell somebody, like, take your old Honda, well,
Mm,
not so old, but take your current racing Honda, remove your VTEC engine, and then dump in this electric vehicle kit, and they'll be like, oh, that sounds nice. Probably same power or even more.
yeah.
But the thing is, when they hear about the cost, is that, oh no, okay, sorry, this is not for me.
Mm,
So um, the additional task I'll have is that I need to promote this kind of motorsport. So which is why I'm starting off in gymkhana. So in gymkhana, nobody can question me, because the highest level of gymkhana, they use electric cars, right?
right.
So if you're going to be a successful gymkhana driver, if you're going to be selected, if you're going to be the best of the best in Malaysia, where do you go? You go to France or wherever the World Motorsports game is happening, and
Yeah.
what do you drive? An electric car.
Right.
So it's it's a no-brainer
Yeah.
that you start in an electric car. That's
Yeah.
it. If you're going to be driving Formula One, then yes, go karts. Right? But if you put somebody in an electric car and then you say you head to Formula One, that might not make so much sense. But in Gymkhana, for now at least, it makes it makes so much sense that you'd be dumb not to do it. I mean,
Right.
that's how I see it. Yeah.
Okay. And if our guests have just heard the first race of the day of the GT World Challenge just went past, maybe
Mhm.
the microphones picked that up. So coming back to this cost thing, there's currently this debate, right, about uh, the electricity versus the current petrol engines, and whether the electric engine really is making a difference, because sure, it's saving on those fuels, but then what's needed to actually manufacture this technology is still damaging or affecting the environment in a negative way.
Okay, I won't lie. The batteries are a problem at the moment. But if you take the batteries out of the picture and you look at just the electric motor and what the motor can do, a small, well, something half the size of a four-cylinder engine can create as much as double the power,
Right.
right? So they are extremely efficient, almost zero maintenance, and yeah, and then you don't even really need a gearbox. Actually, you don't need to go through fifth to sixth gear or whatever. So just two gears are enough, or just direct drive. So the thing is, batteries. So battery manufacturing, if you talk about the past, well, the past is not so long ago. So you've got different types of batteries. You've got lithium ion, then you've got LiFePO now, lithium phosphate. So battery technology is actually moving fast.
Right.
What you read, my opinion, what you read, most of the negative stuff that you get is probably, well, I can't say funded, but there's some input from people in the oil and gas industry. Okay, so there are pros and cons. Yes, the cons are that it's not very clean to produce a battery, to manufacture a battery. That's
Mm.
true. But then again, if there's no demand, there won't be a supply. And by supply, I mean supply of cleaner batteries, or something that's longer lasting. Look at the Teslas. I mean, not don't look at Tesla. Tesla started with something that had a 400-kilometer range probably, and it was like wow, right? Everybody went wow.
Yeah.
But these days, it's Porsches and some other cars. They You can get like 600, 800 kilometers out of them.
Right.
So it has
Okay.
to be healthy competition. Uh, if you were a battery manufacturer and you know people are saying that your batteries are dirty, so you'd have to do something about it.
Right.
You're left with no choice. And because people need cleaner batteries, you're not just going to say, "Oh no, we can't do this." So
Right.
it's the same thing with current fuels, with petrol and stuff like that, right? So we had petrol, rather we have, and then they said, "Oh, petrol is dirty," and then they came up with biofuels as an alternative, not so much a replacement yet, but as an
Yeah.
alternative. So we started with batteries because we or they, the manufacturers, they only knew of one way to manufacture batteries. But these days, with R&D going on, with very efficient electric motors and stuff like that, and manufacturers wanting everything to be like completely carbon free or almost carbon free, so they are forced to come up with ways to make their manufacturing cleaner.
Right.
Yeah, I say forced because you have no choice. It's either you do it or somebody else will do it, and then you lose the business.
Right. Okay. And well, would you sort of going back to the biofuels, because they're still really testing that, right? There's all kinds of different things,
Correct.
cooking oils, all that stuff. Do you think it's still viable to be researching those kind of biofuels?
Biofuels. Uh, Depends on where you are actually, and what you're using. So if you're using heavy machinery, at the moment you still need diesel.
Right.
So cleaner diesel is still very much needed
Yeah.
because diesel particles and stuff like that. So in the air. Uh, that being said, they are heavy machinery manufacturers actually using hydrogen these days. So it's expensive, like I said. So it's a special case kind of thing. Still research and development stage,
Yeah.
but there is an alternative which is hydrogen. So the next step would be to make hydrogen process cleaner to produce hydrogen. So they have green hydrogen, blue hydrogen. They go by colors.
Right.
And then the project I'm working on, we've gone we've taken a different part in the sense that we get to create our own hydrogen through well, not electrolysis. Everybody thinks it's electrolysis, but through hydrolysis. There's
I,
some magic going on there.
oh, okay. Yeah, because I've noticed, even in my condo, they've now got electric car chargers. They're popping up everywhere, so it's
Yeah.
certainly moving forward at some pace here in Malaysia. Uh, the technology that you've currently got now, that's been focused on the Super 7, right? Do you need to do some testing and adjusting of or development of the technology for bigger cars that, well, bigger in size, plus the cars that need to generate faster speeds?
Yes. Okay. So that's already been done actually by manufacturers. So once again, come back to Porsche, Tesla, and whoever else is in the market. So you got Hyundai these days.
Oh, okay.
They do all that. Uh, Personally, for me, we have to make it accessible to the everyday man. So, meaning cheaper cars or cars that okay. So I'm an a classic car enthusiast. I own a couple of classic cars, right? I hardly use those cars, possibly on weekends. Well, maybe 50 kilometers on a Saturday or Sunday total. Just go out here, there, wherever around town. So I don't need big batteries and
Mm,
I don't need an expensive charger. I
right,
just need something that I can charge my car at home, which the standard the 3-pin plug. It will take me something like possibly 5-6 hours, but then I get to use the car the whole day. I mean, it's fine because I'm only using the car either on a Saturday or Sunday or both, but not as a daily driver.
Yeah.
So ideally, a daily driver would be hybrid if you don't have charging stations around. But even for me, to be honest, I don't even own a hybrid or electric road car.
Right.
Not because you know why? I want to convert what I have now into electric. So I want to do that. I don't want to go out and buy an electric car. Anybody can do that, which is fine, which is good. But there should also be an option where I can choose to convert my current car. You've
Right.
got lots of people with minis, right? Those old classic minis, small
Yeah.
little things. So you could get a kit like what I have in my Super 7, and you could, because they weigh just about the same, and it could be a very useful town car, something that you can charge at home. Where
Right.
if you live in a condo, that might be a problem. But then again, it all depends on how many chargers you have in your car park. Yeah, so don't just look at trying to find a solution for the everyday commuting to work
Right. Yeah.
person. So think about hobbyists, think about enthusiasts, think about somebody who has a classic car, an old Alpha maybe, well, there's always going to be problems tuning those Dalroto carburetors or Weber carburetors, and then the owner says, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, and then he chucks the car to the side because of that.
Right.
But then now he has an alternative. Just, yeah, sure, you won't get the intake sound from the carburetor anymore, but the car will be running smoothly, and the car doesn't need to spend like 4 days in a week at the mechanics trying to tune the carbs.
Right.
Speaking
Right.
from experience, working on Webers and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there should be alternatives for different people. What the
Mm.
government looks at now is, oh, go out and buy an electric car, right? Then they people like us, motorsport, like you even, so we don't think about going out and buying something that we can't tinker with. We want something that we can tinker with. So look at what we have first. If it's not a motorsport car, then what road car that you have at home, either
Yeah.
the second or the third car, that you could convert to electric and move on from there. So the problem in Malaysia is now they do not allow, uh, they cannot legalize conversions, but we are working on that, and we, including me, I'm part of the team.
Right.
So in motorsport, we can do just about what we want, just about anything we want, rather. So I'll start in gymkhana because that's the easiest and fastest. I've already got cars, and I've also got bikes. Actually, two-wheel gymkhana, motorsport.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah. So all I need to do is, put different drivers in the seat, and hopefully, there is a plan for circuit racing. Obviously, so I can't tell you what it is now. I'm sorry, but
Mm.
maybe next year there is a plan um, to come over in Sepang. You might see electric cars racing in Sepang,
Right.
but in what capacity, what form, what the regulations are going to be like, we are working on it.
Right.
Hopefully, when everything is ironed out, then we'll announce it.
Yeah. I suppose getting a big international series or something to do
Yeah,
an
we could,
official round or something here would
correct,
be a great
ETCR. Like I said,
solution.
we could bring in ETCR,
Yeah.
and if we wanted to, we could bring in rallycross. So I mean, now everybody's just looking at Formula E. We had Formula 2 rounds of Formula E in Malaysia before.
Mm.
Uh, that's fine, but Formula E are Formula cars.
Yeah.
So the general public would want to see kind of cars that they drive on the road. So if you're driving Kia,
Yeah.
whatever, and then you see an electric Kia, you say, "Oh, I have the same car, but that car is electric." And then you do some research, and you see what's been done, and then you realize that what's been done for that motorsport car can be done for your car also. But
Exactly.
yeah, exactly.
I mean that's an important point that you've brought up, and it's a point that from a motorsport marketing uh, focus that I'm involved in, we've we've had much more success with GT and touring car. Well, if we compare Formula One to GT, for example, or single seater, sorry,
Mhm.
Formula Three, Formula Four, compared that to GT events down here at Sepang, we've had much more success with those in terms of the audience and strategic partners, sponsors, and so
Right,
forth.
because they can relate to it.
Exactly. They see these Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Mercedes on the road every day. They can aspire to own these cars,
Yes.
but you can't aspire to own a Formula One car. So, yeah, that's an important point. Um, with what you've got now in terms of your kit, is it something that a driver from another series, say A Triple C, MCS, if they're interested, if they're listening to this now and interested, do you have a kit or something that they can put into their car now, or does that need
Yes,
to be?
everything's available. Basically, we can guide them. We can tell them what to buy, where to buy it. So, and then what to do with it after they've installed it in the car. So that's the problem now. Just for now, I would say now, as in this year.
Yeah.
So I'm the only organizer that has, and in fact has always had, uh, a category for electric vehicles. So previously in Malaysia, we never had that because
Mm.
nobody had electric vehicles that they want to bring into events, even simple events like gymkhana and autocross. We did have hybrid cars taking part, so that's been done. So electric cars, me, my solution is, okay, so if I've had the category, I still have the category, but if nobody wants to bring their own electric cars, I mean, I understand why, because they're not cheap, these electric cars, to be running around in motorsport events. And people who buy electric cars in Malaysia at the moment are not motorsport minded.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have my own car. So what I'll do is, so in Gymkhana, you can actually share a car.
Mm.
So I can have a category, and I can have a well, I can have five drivers in the category, but I don't need five cars. I can have one or two cars and
Yeah.
have different drivers drive those cars.
Right. Yeah.
You see what I'm getting at? Yeah. So you can't do that in a circuit race like something that's happening today. You can have a swap of drivers. Yes, you can have two, three drivers driving a car in
Mm.
the race series. But then again, they're sharing one car, and the time is like, they share time.
Yeah.
So like five drivers to win a race. So what I'm doing is I'm using one car, example, five drivers, and then you've got five drivers aiming to win that particular category. So yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, that's great.
It's an electric car. I don't have to worry about anything. There's no oil to check, whatever. As long as the batteries last, which they will last the whole day or whole weekend even,
Yeah.
that's it. So long as they don't crash the car, that is.
True.
So that's the aim. That's the
Are
aim.
the local workshops going to hate you? Because, like you just said, there's no oil changes.
Exactly.
There's no tinkering,
Okay.
basically.
So thankfully, well, being my age, so experienced, I come up with the problem and I also come up with the solution. So the problem is, yes, as you say, but then I'm actually certified to go and upskill mechanics.
All right.
It's only a matter of whether they want to be upskilled or not. So if you have a regular mechanic who does regular servicing, and then he's going to lose his business to electric cars, so I teach him how to service electric cars, what to look for. It's people keep saying that you need to be an electronics engineer, electrical engineer. No, you don't actually. I know some people are going to those engineers are going to hate me for saying this, but if you have basic mechanical skills, if you know how to tinker with a car that has a carburetor, even a classic car or whatever, this is going to be easier.
Right.
It's not a big deal to convert your car from internal combustion engine to electric if you have a plug and play kit. The
Okay.
problem only starts when you start from scratch. You build your own controller. You have to build your own battery from scratch. So you need the know-how. So you
Mm.
need to be an engineer to think about things like that. But these days you don't need to. You just go online, and then you know the weight of your car. You roughly know how much power you want. So don't look at horsepower. Look at torque, as in
Okay.
Newton meters, and pick what you need for your car.
Uh,
Installing it is extremely easy. You just need to know the basics, which is safety. So do not cut up your chassis. Make sure the mountings are proper. Make sure your drive shafts are connected properly. The last thing you want is your drive shaft breaking or your wheels flying out on the road or on the track.
mm.
So we actually have people who can inspect cars like that. We don't charge you a bomb. In fact, we don't charge you anything at the moment. I always say just buy me tea. That's it, because it's a hobby.
Right.
It's not something that I do for a living, and I would like to see more, well, motorsport at least, electric vehicles out there. So if
But
there's
you're
any,
Malaysian, and you're
sorry,
not asking for money for these guys to fit it out.
me, no. Yeah, people who know me do that. They come to me for advice. I even show them my car because I want more people out there to think the way I do.
Mm.
right? So yeah, most people actually like electric vehicles. They really do, despite the excuse of it not being noisy and stuff like that. But once you drive it, you love it. You want to drive an electric car the whole day. It's so smooth, and it's quite talky. So you don't have to do anything. I mean, you don't need a clutch. You might not even have a gearbox. So you just have a switch that tells you forward or backwards. That's about it. Either you move forward or reverse. So it's so simple. Okay, so older people like me, like us, probably, it's hard
Hey,
to
I'm
change.
nowhere near as old as you,
Yeah,
man.
exactly. So yeah, so well, not so young people anyway. Mindsets are hard to change.
Right.
Okay, so I grew up in an era where we had cars running around with Webbers. We had super saloons, cars that space frames. Yeah, so I'm still there. Those are the cars that really appeal to me. But then moving on to fuel injection, in the rallying world, when I was in rallying cars like Evos and stuff like that came up, four-wheel drive. Yeah, I learned. So I know about those cars. I drove those cars. Fuel injection, how to program fuel injection. Yeah, I learned that. So I went from tuning carbs to fuel injection. Now I'm tuning electric vehicles. And
Mm.
it's the same thing. It's just program. It's just plug in your computer and tell the controller what to do. Throttle response, how much torque to give. The only difference is you're not playing with fuel anymore. You're
Mm.
playing with amperes. So yeah. Uh, well,
You're
if
playing with something more deadlier, I suppose, right?
it could be. But then again, so is playing with a car that runs on. You could still burn yourself or inhale fumes and kill yourself. Okay, so well, coming back to wants and needs. If you want to do it, you can, but probably here in Malaysia,
Mm.
nobody else is doing it. So you have no reference. You can go to Facebook, you can go on the internet, and you can see what everybody else is doing in other parts of the world. But it's just watching on the internet. You don't have, you can't see some physically see something. Okay, example me. Before I started this project, before I was brought into the project in 2019. So when electric cars started coming into Malaysia, I remember a Nissan Leaf. I think Nissan Leaf came in somewhere around, I don't 13, 14 probably. I went to the showroom not to buy one,
Mm.
but just to have a look under the bonnet. I
Right.
wanted to see what's under there. What can I learn from looking under the bonnet? Not on YouTube. So open up the bonnet. All I saw was everything covered, and then yellow cables. So I didn't get to see much. But after I got my own kit and installed it into my own car from scratch, from the box to bench to car, my hands, 100%, installing the batteries and everything. Then I realized, okay, that's all. That's it. Installation. I actually got the motor running in the car in one day. I kid you not, one day. It
Mm.
only took me an additional 2 days because I had to hook up the prop shaft and I had to get the brackets done and the braking done and stuff like that. Yeah, but installation is that easy. So people are scared by things that they don't understand. When it comes to EVs, it's like, once again, if you have basic knowledge, if you know how to remove an engine from a car, and you know how the brakes work and prop shaft and stuff like that, you know what a chassis is, mounting, it's much easier. Trust me, much easier.
The charger that you're using for your system, is it different to the chargers that we find in
Yes,
the?
the charger, mine is built specifically for the battery that I use.
Okay.
So batteries, I have two batteries in the car, and the batteries are not like what you would find in a EV that you can buy in the showroom,
Mm.
because those are actually like integrated into the car. They're under the floorboard, meant for space and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
my Super 7, the batteries sit where the engine used to sit.
Right.
So I have two batteries with handles, so they can be swapped when needed.
Right.
So I've thought, like, down the road, if I want to use the car for a race, and for now in races like they're having here, you come in for 3 minutes,
Mm.
right? It's a mandatory pit stop. They don't have refueling anymore, but you come in for 3 minutes, you do a driver change or whatever. You could swap batteries in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you can just take out the batteries that are depleted, and you
Mm.
can put in fully charged batteries, and off you go. So which is why uh, I did it on purpose, and meaning I ordered batteries that could be swapped.
Okay. But you're saying it's very easy to set up yourself, plug and play,
Yes.
is what you said. But there's been some, I suppose, negative news in the local press in certain car publications that is kind of, I don't know, exposing the costs of battery replacement.
Correct.
So the road cars, yep, you pay your money, you've got your road car, but after a certain period of time, when you got to replace the battery, it's
True.
like five figures, right?
Yes.
Is there is your system more cost effective, efficient than that, or is that going to be something that gradually declines, or is that always going to be an issue with the electric
As
cars?
more R&D is done, battery technology picks up, because it's still, well, batteries will be around for a long time, but in the EV world, they're still quite new.
Mm,
So yes, they have a shelf life. You'll need to replace them. Well, some say 5 years, some say 8 years, whatever, and very expensive. I agree. Okay, then coming back to people who DIY. Okay, so you have plenty of cells in one battery. One
right.
battery is not just one battery. They're made up of hundreds, maybe thousands of batteries. And modern day batteries have a battery monitoring system that you can actually have an app on your phone.
Mm,
So, example, if you have 100 tiny batteries that make up your one battery, and the battery monitoring system will tell you if you have one or two or three or five or 10 cells that are not working or not working properly,
right.
and you just change those cells. Okay, so this is something somebody with DIY knowledge can do. So it's cheaper. You just change the cell. So it's like a chain, the weakest link, right? So the weakest link determines how strong the chain is. So it's the same thing with battery cells. But you can't do that with cars that you buy off the showroom, because if you buy, well, I know there's been talk about Mercedes batteries from Mercedes being more expensive than a used car, but you can't go to Mercedes and say, "Oh, I know the problem is just with one or two cells, and I just want to change one or two cells." You can't do that. You'll have to change the whole battery. What
Right.
they do with it later on, we don't know, but that's where the cost comes in. So
Uh-huh.
coming back to if we are allowed or when we are allowed to work on our own conversions, it will become easier. You won't hear, or you won't hear many uh, DIY people complaining about things like this.
Right.
Mostly, or people who buy new EVs, warranty and prices and whatever. People who own hybrid cars, or who have owned hybrid cars for over 5 years.
Yeah.
So to change the complete battery cost them a lot of money, possibly as much or even more as what the car costs used. But we have people in Malaysia who can just repair what's needed. Like I said, cells. They just change the cells.
Right.
So that's only a fraction of the cost. 10%, 20%. Very rarely that it even reaches 50% of the cost. So that's still cheaper, and you get your car running again as it did when it was new, or battery at least,
Yeah.
for another few years.
Um, just going back to motorsport as we start to wind up, a very important factor. Because I'm thinking of the ACCC guys, the Classic Car Challenge guys, and the local tinkerers. And like you said, it's all about tinkering. Uh, that's one of the main parts why these guys race their classic cars.
Mhm.
But the other very important point about motorsport and racing classic cars is the sound, is the
Yes.
noise generation. And as you've mentioned before, the electric cars,
Yeah.
there's nothing, right?
Correct. Just a wine.
Yeah. um, is there anything that you're doing or anyone else is doing that will develop a system or something that could still generate a nice grunty race noise whilst using electric?
It does exist. In uh, Pikes Peak, for instance, uh, electric cars have to make some noise. It's either artificial exhaust notes,
Right.
or they have like a siren or something, so that spectators know they're coming. I think it's the same somewhere in New Zealand. In electric cars are used in rallies because you can't hear the car, so you're not
Right.
prepared. It's quite dangerous. Yeah, so that's from a safety aspect.
Mm,
But if you're talking about on an enthusiast level, it depends on why you like cars to begin with. So sound to me is sort of entertainment. You're
Mm,
entertained by the sound. Yeah. So I've got a car with rotary engine. I've got a 10. I've had cars with flat six and not. I love the sounds that those cars make.
mm,
But every time I get into my little electric car, all I hear is the sound of tires picking up stones, under the fenders, the creaking of the suspension, and probably a creaking of my bones. Even you get to hear everything. So I'm a technical guy.
mm,
I like to hear things like that. I like to hear what's going on.
right.
Normally, I wouldn't. There would be vibration. There'd be exhaust noise. So exhaust noise is fine if you want to know what's going on with the engine, right? You don't even need to look at the tachometer to change gears. You just hear the note of the exhaust. But when you don't have all that, you'll realize that you get to hear everything else.
Mm,
And to me, so far, I like it. So it's an individual thing, really. If I want to be entertained by exhaust notes, I have other cars.
yeah.
I have other cars. I'm not saying everybody else can do the same, but that's just me. And once again, those who say that they don't like EVs because they're quiet, uh, don't hate me for saying this, but most likely they've actually never driven an EV.
Right.
They just heard EVs passing by, and they liken it to washing machines and stuff like that. Well, no, I liken it to spaceships. I mean, it sounds nice. It's something out of the future. So
Yeah. Through the whoosh. Well, I mean, if you look at the Le Mans cars, the prototype Le Mans cars, they're not a grunty noise. They're quite a swishing
yeah, exactly.
sound.
Cars are quite quiet these days.
Yeah.
And then coming back to road cars, okay. So I've heard people say that road cars are too EVs, road cars rather are too quiet. If you walk into a showroom now and you buy a regular road car, family car, they don't make noise. They're
Mm,
very quiet, right? So it's the same thing. It's just that people love to hate. I'm sorry for saying this, but people love to hate, and especially things that they don't understand.
yeah. True. The old fogies are going. The old
Nah,
racers are going
it's just
to.
a mindset which is why I aim to educate the young now because college students, uni students, they engineering students, so they started to learn about things like this. So I kind of like um, I would like to say I brainwash them. That's a crude word, but we just put it into their heads that it's not a bad thing.
Mm,
Learn now so that when you're out in the real world as an adult, either you're earning and or you're in the engineering field, you won't hate EVs. You will not dislike them because you started getting used to them at a young age. I think we all like that. It's like we always go back to what we liked when we were young. It's the same
mm,
thing. If you talk to me about a modern race car and something that was running around in the 80s, I would always go back to something that's running around in the 80s because when I was a teenager, that was a car that really made me go, wow.
right.
That's it. So
Yeah.
get them young. That's the
And
plan.
how are you? What's your marketing plan? How are you marketing this? Or do you have a marketing strategy there? Do
I
you
do,
need?
I do. Okay, at the moment, it's all about awareness and education. So I'm not selling anything, but if anybody wants to buy anything, they usually come to me, and I say you can get this here, there, and whatever. So I'm working with workshops to educate them, upskill them, reskill them, so that they can provide conversion services,
Yeah.
right? So they're able to do it, and then coming back to students, engineering students, so I teach them things that they wouldn't really learn in college and uni, which is how to I don't know, how to tinker basically,
Yeah.
because you learn to go by the book, nothing wrong with that. But then again, with experience comes tinkering. So you know how to upgrade something. You learn how to upgrade something without upgrading something. It
Right.
sounds weird, but yeah, you get that kind of knowledge. It's the same thing with tinkering with our cars. And once again, I will go back to the days of running Webers and stuff like that, right? You will know that your carb is not running right just by listening to the intake.
Mm,
You would know, and just a couple of turn of the screwdrivers. That's it.
yeah.
Not by the exhaust note, not by that. So it's the same thing with EVs. You can feel it in the throttle. So if you feel, uh, based on your driving style, you need immediate power somewhere. I know you like to make power turns, you like to slide the car, or you want something that's less. If the car is, I use the word excited. If the car is too excited, when the light turns green and you touch on the throttle, you'll be into the rear of the front car.
Right.
So you learn to program the car based on your driving style. It's just a matter of plugging in the software, your computer, laptop, whatever, and changing some settings. So
Okay.
that's what I mean. So it's actually upgrading. It considered upgrading. You're not getting any extra power, but you will get some speed out of there because you're not either wasting it when you start off by
Yeah.
spinning the wheels, or wherever you need it at the apex, after the apex, depends on your driving skill. So these are the kind of things that young people can learn.
Mm.
So if we have the 10 of the same cars, even showroom cars, but you have 10 different drivers who want 10 different things, then you can have 10 different versions of the same car.
Right.
That's it.
Okay. So if there's someone listening today that has some special skill set or connections or what have you, what do you need now to go forward?
In terms of motorsport or in general?
In general, the development and motorsport to make this
Okay.
a mass product or to increase the production of what you've got.
Well, to me now, everything's out there. Okay, we talk about Malaysia.
Mm.
So everything's out there. It's easy to educate yourself. You can go to YouTube. You can see what everybody's doing elsewhere in the world. It's easy to educate yourself, but until you do things hands on, you'll never really learn fully. Seriously, that's how I always say it. You have to be hands on. You have to actually touch whatever it is that you're going to be working on,
Uh,
and then you learn. You have to connect the battery. You need to get that small short circuit to realize, okay, I learned something new today. That's something you never learn just by watching videos. Uh, but the opportunities in Malaysia right now are almost zero,
yeah.
right? Or is almost zero. So when I okay, so I'm creating motorsports. I'm using motorsports as an avenue for people like these hobbies to get involved, or to bring out the EVs, or just start playing with EVs.
Yeah.
Use the word playing. They can do whatever. You could have a go kart running on a motor that's actually a car starter motor.
Okay.
No harm in that, seriously. Yeah, but you can't run it long. It'll overheat and it'll burn out. But it's okay if you're having a drag race, for instance, a go kart drag race.
Mm.
People will be asking like, "There's no such thing." There's no such thing because nobody's done it. But
Right.
what if you create a little go kart drag race running on car starter motors? That's it. A short 100 meter or 50 meters, even doesn't matter. The motors run for like 5 seconds. At the end of the day, you just want to know who's the fastest.
Yeah.
So you get people involved. It could be young people, it could be older people, but the fact is they can get involved with just a simple starter motor from a car
Yeah.
and a 12-volt battery. That's
Right.
it. But people are not doing that. So when people don't do that, you don't bring people in. That's it. Because everybody thinks like, oh, to get involved in electric vehicles, I need to spend 100,000 ringgit or above at
Right.
least.
Okay.
That doesn't have to be the case.
Well, it's it's very extremely. It's it's
Yeah.
very interesting what you're working on, and it's great to see someone focusing on an area, especially motorsport, that is being overlooked here, but actually putting in the effort to educate, especially the younger generation, and try and build the foundations of something that could be, well, positive for the environment in motorsport in Malaysia, but just a completely different new aspect of Malaysia. So, is there anything you want to shout out to for our viewers to go look at? Any websites or anything, or
Okay.
how
No
can
websites at the okay, yeah, no websites at the moment. I think people who are interested in things like this, once again, it doesn't have to be about an expensive electric car. If look at the US, teenagers, school children are adding small motors onto their bicycles,
they?
right, onto their bikes, and they're riding them around. We can do that here. We can start something here. We can use gymkhana as a base for events, because the whole idea of knowing who's better than the other guy is competition. I can create those events. I would love to create those events. So if there's anybody who's interested, to me at least, DIY electrification,
Okay.
anybody has an idea, anybody probably has some a DIY electric bike at home, you never know. I already have two, I have three in fact. So get in touch with me uh, through my Facebook, DM me or something, and I will invite them to where I'm based now, in currently in Glenmarie, Shah Alam, and I'll arrange something. I mean, we need to get together. I would love to have a little community of like-minded people,
Yeah.
and then we move from there. So I mean,
Great.
I know I'm heading, but I would like to have friends joining me. You know, people who think the same way.
Well, we'll put all your details in the description below.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for your time
You're
and
welcome.
sharing what you've got there. And we'll catch up again. I'll follow your progress.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You're most welcome to do a review of my car.
yeah,
It's still in, it's still being used for R&D, but possibly in a couple of months when it's all more decent, I'll invite you to over and show you what I've been talking about, and you get to drive it. So and then make up your mind again whether noise is important or not.
great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Jagjeet. Again,
You're welcome, Ben.
we got some more racing today, Sunday at Sepang. We'll catch up with you later.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye, viewers.